Welcome to Hard Hats and Horizons, the podcast where we dig deep into the construction and economic developments shaping the future of Dallas-Fort Worth. We bring you insights from industry leaders and visionaries who are driving growth in North Texas. From construction projects to industry trends and insights, we cover it all. So grab your hard hat and join us as we explore the people and projects shaping the skyline of DFW. Now, here is your host, Andrea Pender.
Okay, welcome to the Hard Hats and Horizons podcast. We have Kattie here today. She is a project manager with Skiles Group, and we've known each other for maybe a year now? And
yeah, since April.
So I want to talk about that too, how we met. But let's start us off. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got to Skiles Group.
Long journey. So a little bit about myself. I'm half German, half Iranian. Born and raised on the other side of the world. Somehow ended up here for college. Somehow ended up in Texas. And I blame my grandmother in a good way. She decided that she wanted to move to Austin, and the rest of us kind of followed her.
Why Austin?
Honestly, I don't think she had a valid reason. I think she followed my aunt who moved to Texas because they just had better opportunity here.
Interesting.
They were from Michigan originally, and it's funny, all of my cousins claim that they're more Texan than they're Michiganese from Michigan.
Michiganders?
Michiganders, whatever the term is. So we used to spend summers in Austin, and I remember, the 120-degree heat that was unbearable, and then ironically decided to move here.
Okay, because we love this weather.
Yeah, it just made sense. I think the difference was back then you'd have a day or two that was 120 versus now I think it's almost every day.
So yes. How old were you when you got to Austin?
Michigan. I actually never officially moved to Michigan. I went to college in New York, and I was 18 when I fully moved over.
Okay.
And then I did get my master's in Austin. Then that was after college, and then got an internship in Dallas, and somehow just stayed. I always said, I'll be in Dallas 2 years and then I'm out. I'll be in Dallas 2 years and I'm out. And that was 10 years ago.
Okay, nice. And tell us a little bit about Skiles Group, what Skiles Group does and what you do with Skiles Group.
So Skiles Group is a small boutique healthcare company. And I don't think we're small anymore. We're actually fairly larger than when we started out. But we believe in a better way to build. And I think that's what initially attracted me to Skiles Group. We're not following status quo. It's always, okay, this works, but how can we make it better? And I think when I first started talking to, Keon and Clay and Michael and everyone else in the leadership team, it just, something clicked. They had the same mindset. I don't think I've ever been held back in growth, and they've encouraged me to grow even beyond, where I could see myself going in so many different ways. And, we typically do a lot of healthcare work. Granted, we do schools and higher education and commercial and other sectors as well, but being able to work on renovating hospitals and the challenges associated with it, it's just a blast, which is crazy. I think someone called it a sadistic tendency of liking the pain. But once you've figured out the way to work around it, it's just a challenge. It's like a puzzle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we love about construction. Everything's a challenge. And it's about getting the right people in the room and figuring it out together.
So on your little intake form, it says you have a master's in civil engineering.
I do.
So how did we go from civil engineering to construction? Why did you choose the construction route and not the engineering route?
I technically wanted to be an architect first. So I actually got into architecture. I saw the curriculum and panicked. There was no way any of that could ever be something I would succeed in. I can't even draw a straight line.
Okay.
So I pivoted to civil engineering because it felt like the next best thing to building. And my dad was a builder. He actually built the house I grew up in. So I remember growing up, and he had this nice little tool shed, and when I say nice and little, he had almost every tool known to mankind, and he used to do projects at the house, and we had the plans of the house. He talked about the house all the time. Everyone talked about how he had built it. He built houses for his friends for a while. So we'd go visit his friends, and it was like, oh,
I built this.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't always know, but I kind of had a feeling I would end up in this general industry.
Okay.
When architecture failed, I went to civil engineering, and then when I got my master's because I didn't want to start working, which is a very valid reason.
That's, I think, why lots of people get their master's degree. I considered it, and then my dad said, Andrea, how about you get a job? And I'm like, but I could have a master's degree, and wouldn't you be so proud of me? And he's like, I think you should get a job. I tried.
I did not get that response. I'm like, oh, you want to get a master's? Sure. What about a PhD? It's like, okay, that's where I draw the line.
That was my game plan. Like, wouldn't you think this is really cool? I could go to school forever.
Hey, they pay you to do that now.
I'll do it.
But yeah, so I got my master's, and then I ironically got an internship with a developer.
Okay.
And
Local here.
No, this was back in Iran.
Okay.
It was with a company that they hired an architect from the Disney design team. So they're building an amusement park, and I thought that was incredibly cool to see kind of a similar vibe being built, except in a third world country where the rules are a little more gray when it comes to just about anything.
Interesting.
And I thought, well, this is great. This is what I want to do, except at the time I thought they were a general contractor. So I hired on with a general contractor and then realized, no, I completely misunderstood everything. They were a developer, but then I just fell in love with it.
Okay.
And I ended up in construction.
Okay. So how did you get from there to Texas? Oh, you followed grandma.
I followed grandma.
That's right. Okay.
I followed grandma, went to UT, got my master's there. And that's when I got an internship in Dallas.
Okay.
And that was also a very panicked last minute move. You know, I can probably admit to it now. I wouldn't have 5 years ago. But I had this really nice internship with the university, and I was working on energy improvement and management in their facilities office. Back then, I didn't know what I was doing. Now I understand exactly what I did then, which is ironic. And it hit me that I was in my last year of my master's and I didn't have any jobs lined up or internships or anything. And the career fair was that day and had started half an hour before and I'm sitting there in my office thinking, crap, I gotta get over there. So I rush over. I don't think I had done my hair. I maybe grabbed a blazer on my way. First person I talked to offered me an internship.
Huh.
So it just jived.
Yeah. Nice.
And I took it.
It's interesting to hear kind of how I've had a handful of guests on here who are like, I just took the risk and I made the move. And so I feel like that's kind of a similar story with lots of people that I've been having on. It's not, you're not gonna grow unless you take that risk and it might be scary, but it might be wonderful.
Exactly. It's an adventure.
That's interesting. What are some key moments or challenges that you've had either in your career or in your life?
See, this is a hard one to answer because I don't think I've really faced a lot of challenges. Everything is somehow worked out for the better. I think culture shock was definitely a huge one, and I'd always assimilated. I'm American. We'd been coming to the States since I was a kid. Moving to New York, total culture shock. Moving to Texas, another culture shock. Then moving to Dallas, it was like a third culture. It's one after the other. But assimilation was fairly easy. I mean, people are incredibly nice here, and I think when you stay long enough, the culture just you absorb it really quickly.
Yeah, I know. Years ago, we went to Paris on vacation, and everyone said, "Oh, the Parisians are awful. Like you're gonna hate it." And so we're like, "Oh, geez, like what's going on?" And so I took French in high school, which meant I knew like one word, And so I'm like, well, at least I'm gonna attempt to speak French while I'm there. And so like I would say like a few words really bad and they would turn on their English and they were super sweet. And then I tried my hardest.
That's what matters.
And then I got back and I kind of analyzed all the people that told me, oh, they're awful. Well, they're Americans and they wanted everything to be America when they went to Paris. And I'm like, well, you were probably rude and that's why it didn't work out for you. So not saying that you have to go someplace and change your everything, but you are in a different place. So let's learn it. Let's see what it's like.
Exactly.
That's interesting. And maybe everything that worked out, like it probably wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, but it wasn't a bad challenge or something, but it was probably a small enough challenge to help get you where you're at now.
It's like the thought process of, when you're going through a hard time, are you going to remember this in 5 years?
Yeah.
And what are you going to remember from it? And when you have that mindset, it completely changes your perspective. So you start thinking, oh, I'm probably not going to remember any of this. So I'm just going to get through it.
Yeah.
Then you do. And then you look back and you're like, I accomplished that.
Right. Yeah. I like that. What are some things that have motivated you along the way or some lessons that you've learned?
Every single one of my failures.
Okay.
And I've had many. It's fascinating how much you learn when you make the mistake yourself, especially when it hurts a little. That has been the biggest motivator. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Which has been a great help. And then my sister recently had a baby, and now this little angel is my other motivator. Like, I want to be the person she looks up to one day.
Nice.
Which is a really bizarre way to look at things. She's 10 months old, and she is a beast. And it's funny because I never thought I'd have kids on my own. But this kid, I'm like, this one.
This is the
well,
one.
Two. There's two. But
it's interesting how then you can kind of become, I'm going to be their role model. They don't even know it because she's 10 months old, but yeah.
I look at me like, I don't even like this aunt. I like the other aunt more. I don't know. But I can at least try to position myself in a good spot.
Yeah.
Do you need reliable, high-quality service for your commercial project? Choose Carrco, the most trusted contractor in commercial painting, drywall, and floor coatings in DFW. With over 30 years of experience, Carrco delivers top-tier craftsmanship across Texas. From expert painting and seamless drywall and durable floor coatings, we handle it all, on time and on budget. Transform your space with the professionals at Carrco. Visit carcopainting.com today. Carrco, where quality meets reliability.
What about mentorship? Has that been a part of your life or your career?
It has been, on both ends. I think the reason why I was able to grow to where I was is because I had a phenomenal group of mentors. I remember when I first hired on with Skiles Group, I got paired up with two of the best people I know, Ross and Lucas, and I made plenty of mistakes, but I think the way, and it's funny, I was actually talking about them like this exact situation earlier today. The way they created a culture of just like a safe spot to make your mistakes and then fix it yourself and keep growing from it. And then they continuously put me in those positions to where I was exposed to new things over and over and over again. And I was able to take on more and more responsibility. I think I do credit a lot of my growth in my career to Ross specifically.
And what are their titles? Like, how do you guys work together?
So Ross Brindle is now a client executive at Skiles Group.
Okay.
And he's been a part of the majority of my projects. Actually, I think all of them since the beginning of my career. And he's one of the smartest guys I know. He can see problems and find solutions, and I'm still looking at that. And it's like, oh yeah, I see it now, but before you said anything, I would have never seen it.
Nice.
And Lucas Wilkie's a superintendent at Skiles Group, so he's actually on one of my projects now. And I think, it's kind of funny coming back together. So he was the first super I worked with at Skiles Group, and now we're working together in a very different capacity. And it's just kind of beautiful how that relationship's grown and come full circle.
Nice.
Where now we're peers, and he's still mentoring me.
Sure.
And, he's going to probably see this, and I'm going to say I'll never admit to it, and I think that's the beauty of it, is you can continuously grow and learn from each other without it officially being a mentorship. And then you pass that on to the next generation. If someone gave you that opportunity, you need to give it to someone else.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I mentor a couple ladies this year. I started last year and this year. And it's funny because years and years ago, my mentors would just say, oh, I get so much out of this. And I'm like, I asked you all, like, how did you get anything out of it? And so I think probably you'll find the same thing when there's somebody new coming up under you. And you'll be like, man, I forgot about XYZ. Exactly. And this is something that I can, help teach them along the way.
And teach yourself too, because I realize so much that I don't know when I'm trying to explain something. I'm like, oh shoot, what was this again? That I have to go do my homework. And it really shows you where your gaps are more than anything else. So it's a beautiful win-win situation. I think the only caveat to it is the person you're working with needs to be accepting or looking for that mentorship. If they're not, there's not much you can do.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely, they have to want that. I know one of the things you mentioned down here was the future of construction. So I feel like that kind of ties in with mentorship. So talk to me a little bit about that and how are you going to try to get the younger generation into this industry?
Oh God, such a difficult question. I think the biggest problem we have, and I've heard a lot of people say this a lot, we don't have a lot of representation. So when you talk to the younger kids, they just want to be influencers or TikTokers or just about anything except construction, because nobody thinks about it. I mean, I don't remember even thinking about construction growing up.
No.
And it's not just the general contracting side of it, it's all the trades as well. I mean, there's so much opportunity and we need people everywhere. So figuring out a way to get to kids early, I've noticed a lot more children's books now about construction.
Oh,
It's phenomenal.
that's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
That's something I mean, Bob the Builder maybe is all I can think
Maybe.
of.
Yeah.
That's about, and even that, I don't think that was my generation. I think that came after.
Yeah. I was like, I've heard the name, but yeah.
Oh, there was that Digger. That was an old children's book.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name.
But I'm with you on that.
Not a lot. No movies. There's no. I mean, maybe like one Hollywood movie that had a contractor in it.
Yeah.
You know? So being able to create that exposure early to where make construction sexy. You see all these shows about lawyers and policemen and firemen. Like, why don't we have one about construction?
Yeah.
To where maybe people would even think of it as a path.
And it's interesting. So like on my business development side and like all the marketing people I know, so many of us just accidentally ended up here because a friend of a friend told us, hey, I think you could do this and you'd be good at it. And so I'm part of a book club and it's all industry ladies except for one woman. And she took a little career break to start a family. And it's funny because I'm like, I think you would be a perfect fit in marketing. Like, let me start finding you a marketing position. She's like, I don't know anything about it, but I know all 8 of you. And I'm like, we can help you. So I think that's people don't realize that there's accounting. They don't understand that there's, so much that goes into it. It doesn't just pop out of you water it and off goes a building. There's years of planning that goes into it. So
I think the benefit of our industry compared to a lot of other industries, and you don't see this in like tech or any of the bigger companies where everyone thinks, the fancy jobs are, but we have community in our industry. And we relish that community. That's how we even move anything along. Everything is relationship based. And I think like that's something Texo, for example, does a really good job of is in Texas or in Dallas specifically, we have such a phenomenal community. I run into an issue, I call a peer and they might be a competitor, but they'll walk me through it. We can talk about it. I'll call a trade who has more experience than I do and they'll walk me through it. And they're either on your job or they're not. And none of that even matters at the end of the day because we're all there to help each other grow. And you don't see that anywhere else.
No, it's really nice. Like I always say this is a big giant industry, but really it's really small, like once you dive in and start building those relationships. It's funny because as soon as you said that made me think about years and years ago, I had kind of a dual role of marketing and business development. And there was an RFQ that came out and I was reading it one way, my boss was reading it another way. And I remember I called one of my friends and I'm like, hey, I know you're proposing on this also. And you may or may not tell me the truth. I know you will. But how are you reading question 16 right here, And so it's nice just to have those people. I always say it is work, but a lot of these people also become your friends.
Yeah.
If I scroll through my phone, it's few and far between where it's just a friend that's not in the industry. So yeah, which I really like.
You spend more time with the people you work than you do your own family. It makes sense that you'd want to like them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, relationships get developed and fostered, and then you just keep growing as an industry. And
so I feel like this is a perfect segue to explain how we met.
Absolutely.
So Shirley G will be on the podcast here in a couple weeks. And so Shirley does dragon boat racing. You guys will hear more about this at another episode. And last year she put together a team. What was it? What did she call it?
Ragtag. No, it was a motley crew.
Oh yeah, Motley Crew is what she named our team. And so she's in the industry. And so she reached out to all these industry people. Hey, do you want to do this dragon boat race? And my response was, what do I have to do? And she said, you have to come to one practice and come to the race. And I was like, okay, like that's just like a few hours of my time. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll help support Shirley. And so, how many practices did you go to? I only went to one practice as well.
The bare minimum requirement.
Yeah, same here. And so it was super hot that day. We had 3 races that we had to do. And then I'm realizing that Shirley put together a team of basically industry people. And so that's how Kattie and I started talking, not knowing that you had done a ton of work with Carrco already. And then now I feel like we see each other on a weekly basis. Literally. On average, I would say.
It's phenomenal. Yeah, I remember it's when Shirley reached out, I was like, oh, I've never done that before. Yeah, I'm down.
That's exactly what
And
we
then
said.
what did we place?
We got third place.
We got third place.
We got not
The
a
medal.
trophy, a medal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Third place, and we had never worked together as a team before, and most of us had never been on a dragon boat period. That's pretty fantastic. I mean, that's a testament to Shirley's ability as a leader. I mean, I was a little scared of her yelling from the back. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that wasn't the Shirley we normally see.
I
I liked it.
It's just like pivoted, but I could see that. And
Yeah.
she pushed us past our boundaries to excellence.
It was such a fun day.
So fun.
It was
So
fun. We got all of us out of our comfort zone, and then we made new friends.
Yeah,
That's funny.
All thanks to Shirley.
Highlight something unique or surprising in your journey. That is something that's kind of was inspiring for you.
Something unique in my journey. I think it was meeting people who started utilizing the spaces that I had been a part of building. I met a friend who I found out worked on the marketing team at the Toyota One North American headquarters, which is really cool. It's like, wait, I remember that space. I built it. Like, I've walked through those offices. I know exactly where you're working. Or I had another friend who worked for the Pioneer Natural Gas Resources company. We worked on that headquarters. So like meeting the people who eventually inhabited the spaces was kind of cool. And then having them be my friends was even more bizarre of, hey, these are people who are going to that space day in, day out, and I know exactly how it's impacting their lives. It was just a really weird, it's almost like someone pulled the curtain off and exposed a magic trick.
Yeah, it really is a building that's being used. Yeah, that is neat. I really like to be able to drive through town and be like, oh, Kattie did this. Oh, I was a part of this. Or Shirley was a part of that. You know, like it's always interesting to kind of like, I know everything about these buildings. Not really, obviously, but yeah.
But it starts getting beautiful, especially as like you realize, even if you're not working on that team, you know someone who may have worked on that team. And then you realize the city you live in has been built by you and your peers. And that's really nice to be a part of. Like, we are shaping the future of Dallas.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
It's a very bizarre feeling. And we've seen the changes over the years. Like, I can't wait 30 years from now to be like, yeah, I know everything about everything.
As they're redoing the buildings that we just did.
It'll be beautiful full circle sentiment.
Yeah. Oh, that 30 years from now. Wow.
Scary feeling. I said that and now I regret that I've put it out in the universe. I'd be 60 something then, and you know what? It's going to be great. I heard 60s are the new 30s.
We'll go with that. What's some industry trends that you're seeing right now, or are there any specific challenges that you guys are kind of going through right now?
I think what I'm noticing is as an industry in general, I know we touched on this a little earlier too, we just don't have a lot of people coming in. So the labor shortage is hurting us all. And it doesn't matter if it's on my side or your side, it's hurting us all. Which is where I could see the future of construction is completely pivoting from this traditional sense that we have now, where we have this hierarchy and a separation of roles, and we're going to have just a general construction manager on either end, and we'll be able to allow for people to become experts and masters of their skill again, to where it all becomes a little more cohesive. And the beauty of technology is that we can do less and do more at the same time. So if we can somehow tap into those new procedures or softwares or use AI to somehow increase efficiency and productivity and automation, we can do less but overall do more, meaning that we can then take on more responsibilities and allow for people to actually do their jobs and get back to building. What that all looks like, I have no idea. I think it'll take almost like an implosion in the industry to completely restructure all of it and explain, especially to some folks who might be a little more old school, like, hey, the way we've done it, it's not going to work. Maybe it works now, but barely. And in 5 years, it's not going to work. So
let's start thinking about it
now before we're all in a world of hurt in 5 years.
What was it like where you grew up? Were there trade schools and things like that? Like, what was kind of the opinion on trade school versus college?
So, actually, it's worse in here. There's a huge push for people to go to college. The majority of the country is actually very educated. 60% women, 40% men, which is also fascinating. Most people get their masters. Like, it's almost like you have to. And then they go become taxi drivers because, unfortunately, because of the economy, there isn't a lot of work.
Interesting.
So it's a very bizarre, go study, and then there's nothing for you to go to. Here, there's a lot of opportunity on the back end. I don't think college is right for everyone. I think the way we have a lot of our courses set up isn't the best way to get to where you want to go. Versus you go to trade school, you're already learning the trade. And I think you end up growing significantly faster. And then you always have opportunity to go to college later and then appreciate what you're actually learning. Like, I would love to go back to college now. I know that if I went back to any of my classes, I would learn so much more because now I want to.
It wasn't just checking the box.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's so many people retiring from the trades and they encourage their children to go to college. And so, as you know, now we're kind of missing this group of people to come in and actually build the buildings and make all those things happen. So, again, back to our 30 years, it'll be really interesting to see. Is everybody still pushing to go to college? Is everybody pushing to go to trade school? What are we doing? Yeah.
We need to take the stigma away from it too. Plumbers make more than most general contractors do.
Yeah.
And there's no stigma associated with it. I mean, it's a fantastic, it really is a fantastic job. Why not encourage more people to go into the trades and stop with the controversy or the stigma or the blue collar, white collar conversation?
I wonder why that came about. Like
someone had to feel better about themselves.
Somebody had to feel better about themselves, and they weren't looking at paychecks, apparently, like to compare these things.
You look at a person who sits behind a desk and has a menial job, and they're considered white collar, but they hate everything they do, versus someone who actually is passionate about what they do and they're making a difference. I would take the latter any day of the week.
You mentioned a little bit about AI a second ago. Are you guys doing anything at Skiles Group that's AI?
Not officially yet. I know a few of us are dabbling in figuring out ways to improve processes, but I think with AI comes a lot of unknown, especially when it comes to data and privacy and security and all that. So I think we're trying to figure out our boundaries of how far do you push the limit and to what point can you utilize AI to benefit you. I think at a bare minimum, it's ChatGPT does a great job of helping with certain things. There's some automations built into different platforms that pull from AI that, it's funny, someone was telling me that AI started to talk like them. They're using specific terminology. And I guess when they typed it in, they typed it the way they said it. And it was spitting the information back in their voice, which is interesting because mine doesn't do that. Mine's very prim and proper. I mean, I'm very specific about how I'm typing any sort of a request into it. So I think that's something that we all need to I think we just need to learn more about it and use it better.
So we had a meeting a while back about a program that you guys are kind of working on internally. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my coworkers, Cameron Collins, and I, we've been working on increasing our efficiency. Ever since we got paired up together, we weren't happy with the status quo. And, a lot of us have used Trello in the past, and Trello's great, but it wasn't quite where we needed it to be. So there was a lot of research. He deserves the bulk of the kudos because he, again, sharp kid. I mean, man, very, very smart guy, and very tech savvy, incredibly tech savvy. He did a lot of research and pivoted from one platform to another until he found Fibery, which is what we're mainly working out of now. And then, we worked on restructuring it and building it the way we want to build it. It's essentially a no-code platform. So instead of going to create our own software, which would have required a significant amount of time and money, we're piggybacking off of something that someone else is developing that we are able to manipulate or customize to our needs.
Nice.
And it's completely changed the game. Everything is so much more efficient. We're housing so much data on it. We're managing our tasks, our procurement, a lot of the small stuff that you tend to forget, especially as you get busier and busier, there's automations tied to it.
Nice.
So it's been a huge push, and granted, we're not able to put as much time into it as we had in the past, but we're continuously working on improving it, and I think it could easily replace so many of our other processes because it's all centralized and there's no more silos. And I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves in this industry is sometimes we become so siloed, and we need to break away from that. There's only one way to move forward, and instead of doing double work, if we can increase our efficiency, we all again do less, or we do more by doing less. So that's I think that is the true future. But again, with every technology, you need to get buy-in and you bring people on board. It takes a minute to get used to the interface. But I think that's the beauty of using platforms like this too. You're not spending a ton of money on something that you're now bought into and you have to stick with. The cost is minimal. If something better comes out in 5 years, easy pivot, export the data, import it somewhere else. And it is essentially a database. So we're now collecting data over and over again that could hopefully be used to improve our own processes. So it just seems like an easy win-win. And quite frankly, you can ask me or him, and I'm sure he'll say the exact same thing. I think without this tool, we would have been floundering. I mean, it just, so much would have fallen through the cracks. And this has helped us increase our efficiency so much. I can't imagine not having it at
Nice.
this point.
You mentioned silos. Are you meaning silos within Skiles Group, or silos within like all of the construction, everybody working together?
I think it's just construction in general.
Okay.
The way most companies are set up, your pre-con department separate from your construction department, separate from marketing, separate from, and you're all and sometimes you're talking, you try your best to talk, but we get so busy. So instead of making it an active conversation, what if it's passive? And then it goes out to the rest of the industry as well. We are siloed from trade partners and from each other, and to some extent, some of that does need to be siloed, and we are competitors. But a lot of it doesn't need to be. Why aren't we all learning and growing from each other and figuring out a way to share that information in a passive way to where you don't have to actively think, oh, let me go tell someone this. You're doing your day-to-day and they know it's there. If they're doing, I don't know, if they're painting or they're working on a building that has a very specific install that they've never done before, and they type that in, it already pops up lessons learned from other similar installs. Or if there was an issue with something or something got discontinued, instead of trying to dig and find it, it's available at your fingertips, and it helps us all just move faster.
That's really interesting. I mean, we try not to silo ourselves. You try to get that information out to everybody, but yeah, that's it. I had to pause there for a second because I'm like, gosh, look at all the possibilities that are out there for us to do.
And it is unintentional. You just don't know what other people don't know. So sometimes you don't even think, oh, let me go tell them I just built a fireplace. This was my first one, but I'm probably the only one. Then you don't realize, oh no one else has even built one, and you share those lessons learned. Now everyone knows that, but sometimes you don't even think about it.
I know at past companies we've had like quarterly meetings, and somebody has been able to talk about their project, and those like 5-10 minutes, those are the most engaging minutes of the whole company meeting, because you're learning those lessons learned or the little nuances here and there, and it's interesting to hear. And then people are passionate about it, so you want to listen to it. It's not just the reporting of whatever goes on at a quarterly meeting. So that's all interesting. Let's see, is there any sort of actionable advice that you have for any listeners who may be in similar fields?
Actionable advice. That's a really strong term right there. I love it. I think it just boils down to, I think right now where we're at, things seem daunting and exhausting. And, with the industry pivoting slightly, and with all the tariffs and all the labor shortages, sometimes the day-to-day can be stressful. And you just need to find that silver lining. And there are days when it's incredibly hard, even for me. And it might be a snarky joke that gets you through the day. It might be, a beverage after work. It might be yoga or whatever it is, find it and force yourself to do it. I mean, there's so many days where I feel like I'm exhausted. I've worked, I have to work later, and I cut out those simple pleasures. And those are the weeks where I'm cranky and tired. And this is a horrible analogy, but I keep thinking about my 10-month baby niece, and if she doesn't have her sleep and her food, she's cranky. She has that.
Same.
She's incredible. Exactly. So why are we, not giving ourselves what we need when we know we need it? And that's the only way to get through it. So as life gets challenging, and with everything that changes, just find your silver lining, and then don't sacrifice it for anyone.
Yeah.
Especially yourself.
I like that. I like that a lot. I know there's people who have like, on Wednesday, this is when I meet with my friend. And I'm like, well, you don't have to tell everybody that you're meeting with a friend and that's why you can't go to the work event, because it's your thing. Just say I'm unavailable, because you need to protect those times. I agree with that 100%. What is something that you're passionate about in your job?
Oh, everything. It's horrible. It's great. I think the people and the passion, the problem solving are
Mhm.
the two big drivers for me. I work for a phenomenal company. I think we all get along incredibly well to the point where not only do we encourage each other to keep growing, but I've just never felt happier in the sense of everyone's there. So everyone's there for the same goal. You know, we're all there to help each other grow, and we're all happy for each other. And it's a very bizarre.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be bizarre, but it's unique in a sense of, you know, the sense of camaraderie between everyone who works there is commendable, and I think that comes down from leadership. You know, it
Nice.
does stem from
I
a
think
higher source.
I think it's interesting too in this industry. I mean, sure, there's stressful days like anything, but I think ultimately everybody loves what they do in this industry. And I mean, I've never worked in accounting or, you know, finance, so maybe those people love it as well. But I really truly feel like everybody in this industry, there will be some hard days. Every
Yes.
day will not be easy, but at the end of the day, we love it.
Yeah.
So
And it's beautiful too. Like, you have a challenging problem, and I know it's the same for you guys as it is for us. Hey, I have this huge problem. I try to solve it, I failed. I try to solve it again, I failed. I pull in one person, still can't find a solution. And now all of a sudden, all of leadership is involved, and they're all trying to help, and that's beautiful. It's not my problem. It's our problem. How do we figure out a solution together? And usually, you come out of a room after an hour with all the heads, and it's you have a solution. You have a path forward at least.
nice.
And that's really unique too in its own. And I know you guys operate the same way of, okay, let's just whoever needs to be in this, let's figure it out
Let's
together.
figure it out. We're gonna make it
We're
happen.
gonna make it happen.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your future goals?
Future goals.
Let's rewind it from 30 years. So maybe just whatever future goals.
You know, it's crazy. A lot of people have asked me this question, and it's hard to have like a very definitive goal because I feel like my goals change every 3 months.
Okay.
But I think it all falls under the umbrella of keep growing.
I love it.
Learning, keep growing. As long as I'm doing something new, as long as I'm going on a new adventure, as long as um, I'm learning and growing, I will be happy. The second I stop, I get incredibly bored.
Mhm.
I remember we did I think we did like some sort of an activity on one of my previous projects of, you know, what drives you. Let's all understand what drives each other. And I know we've all done similar things at different places, but a lot of people, and this is where I realize I'm a little more unique, you know, they pick faith and family and love and friends. And I think mine was ambition and growth, and I just felt a little off by, you know, not picking friends or family as my primary. But I think a lot of that comes with the growth as well, because you are growing your love for them, you are growing
Right.
your relationship, you're growing. If you're growing, they're growing type of a situation, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship. But I don't know. It's crazy. I think that's why I like to travel, is just continuously experiencing something new.
Mm-hmm. Have you done the Strengths Finders?
I have not, no.
So a learner is my number one. And so I know myself enough now where I'm like, I can't take all 17 classes that I want to take. And so it's funny because I've signed up for 2 classes right now and I'm like, but there's like 5 more. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So yeah, I love learning all those new things. Let's see. Okay, moving on to kind of some personal things. What are some of your hobbies outside of work?
I have too many to count. That's a problem. I love to read, which is actually a huge problem. It can be very expensive.
If you have a library card.
You know, it's funny. I do have one. I have noticed though, not a lot of books are stocked in the library.
Or you have to wait.
You have to wait.
Yes.
So
I always have my wait list is always full, like fully reserved. And so then it typically like once a week one pops up like, oh, I forgot I reserved this 46 weeks ago or whatever it was. So
well, I'm impatient.
Yeah.
I go to half price books a lot.
Love it.
I sell less than I buy, which
Of
is
course.
a problem.
Uh-huh.
Not in quantity, but in cost.
Yeah, because you bring in 2 boxes of books and they're like, we'll give you 92 cents. You're like, thank you. I'll go spend $55.
It is a problem because they put all the good books right by the selling booth. I've also started really enjoying buying books online at thrift books. So I'll buy secondhand books, and you can get a few for as low as $3, you know,
Nice.
a book. And so it is a problem. I try to donate as many as I can. I don't try to keep them all, but my library is starting to overflow.
Do you read a little bit of everything?
I read everything.
Okay, nice.
Everything. And it just depends on my mood. So that is my biggest hobby. I do love to cook. So trying new recipes is always a nice way to like let off some steam.
Nice.
I've gotten into pickling. I'm going to be
Oh.
doing a lot of
Okay.
vegetable pickling this summer.
Oh.
Jams.
Oh.
Also another fun one. And I intend to make my own wine this year. That is my goal. I'm putting it out in the universe. I will bottle my own wine this year.
I think you can enter like the state fair in all of those categories too. So you should look into it to then like.
Fascinating.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is not good. This is great. It is definitely on my list now.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. My aunt has done a lot of pickling, but I've never done it. I'll just be like, yours is wonderful. Let me just eat the whole jar of whatever you just gave me.
Well, during COVID, I started a garden, and then my garden grew and grew and grew, and then I ended up with all these vegetables, and I just couldn't cook it fast enough. So I kept
What do I do?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
I could give it out, or I could do something with it, and then the idea of pickling came up. The only caveat is I failed so far.
Okay.
So hopefully this year I will succeed, and it's not that difficult.
Just try a new recipe.
Just trying
or something.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have a defining moment or a philosophy that you live by?
I have adopted my dad's philosophy
Okay.
of enjoy the life. He used to say that all the time. I remember when we were younger, my brain would always race like 500 miles an hour, and I always think 10 steps ahead, and he kept reminding me like, no, just live in the moment. We're here right now. We're on a beach. We're on a cafe. We're wherever we are. Like, just be here for a minute. And he lived so well. And I want to emulate that. And now that I'm a little more mature and a little older, I'm realizing the beauty of just sometimes sitting somewhere and being in the moment.
Nice.
So that's my biggest motto, just enjoy the life.
I like that.
Whatever that means.
I like that. You might have just answered this next question. Who or what inspires you the most?
I used to have all of these external forces, but it's bizarre. My family does. You know, I feel like I've learned just a little from everyone who's directly influenced me. You know, my dad, my mom, even my sister now with her baby. I mean, she's so inspiring. The way she just manages all of it, it makes it look flawless, which I think a lot of young moms are now doing that. And it's
so well. I'm like, wow, how are they doing this? They have a routine. Yeah.
I can't even handle my dogs. How are they handling children? It's incredible.
Yeah, ditto.
But it's nice to be able to see, you know, how people have influenced you, and I'll see a lot of my own behaviors and realize, oh, I got this from this person, or I got this from this person. I'm emulating this person, and I never really realized it when I was younger.
Nice.
And now I just cherish it more.
Nice. Okay, so we have a quick fire round, which is never quick fire because I'm asking the questions and I then dig into it a little bit more. What's the last book that you read?
Oh, geez, I read so many. The last book that I read. Oh, I'm not going to say that title. There was a book I read recently that I really liked about parking.
Oh yeah. You mentioned that one.
I'm now blanking on the name. I think it was called like Pavement. Shoot.
What was it about?
It was about how parking really drives spaces. And how we're so focused on like, you'll build a strip mall and I have all of these parking lots around it and they're always empty, but it's a city requirement. So it's killing a city. And if you're not able to be creative about it, or how like there's different areas in the bigger cities like Chicago or New York that are driven by parking, and the requirements that are associated with it that prevents people from creating these public spaces. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating how much it drives everything.
Well, and I mean, I'm a big one on that. Like, if there's no parking, I'm not going. Or can I Uber there, or can I drive there and the valet can find the parking? You know, because I'm like, I don't want to drive around for 20 minutes and then walk a mile, and you know.
So if there's ways that they can figure that out, make walkable spaces, put more DART stations, or you know, rails or something, a way to get there without necessitating these big ugly parking lots that also just kill the city, because now you don't want to walk past the parking lot
because they're scary. You never know who's sitting in that parking lot. Yeah, interesting. What is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, I'm gonna butcher this, so it tells you I'm not really good with words, but Kevin Carey with Mountain Movers recently said, Something about you, either you change what you can control, and then you let go of everything else. And this is definitely a butchered version of it, but this has stuck with me too a lot of, if you can control it, change it. And if you can't, let it go. There's nothing you can do about it, so stop letting it influence you or stress you. And that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, that's a good one. What is a skill you would like to learn? Just one.
The next one I would like to learn. Honestly, I would like to bake bread.
Oh, you don't know how to bake bread?
I have failed at baking bread, so I'm going to say no.
Interesting. Okay.
I would like to have my own sourdough starter. I would like to, bake on a daily basis. Well, maybe not daily, but weekly basis. Muffins or banana bread or just regular bread. I think that'd be a nice little challenge.
I like to bake. I like desserts, so that's an easy one for me because I'm like, ooh, I get dessert out of it. So
that's wonderful. See, baking's different from cooking because you have to follow the order of things to the T, otherwise it doesn't come out well. Cooking, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. I have a recipe for, it's like a protein cinnamon bread. I'll send it your way. And it's easy. You can kind of like not measure exact and it's still good.
I love it.
Yeah.
That'll be my end.
Perfect. What is the favorite city you have visited?
I have way too many, but I think the last one, I was in Croatia over the summer in Dubrovnik, and I fell in love. The food, the weather, the ocean, or the sea, it just so beautiful, so relaxing, and just the Mediterranean vibe in general, it just puts you at ease. I would love to go back.
Nice. Nice. Do you go back and visit places, or are you, let's try a new one?
I try to go to new places.
We do too.
I fail sometimes. But if I do return to a place that I love, I try to tie in a little bit of new to it. Okay. So maybe there's a little layover I could do on the way there, or like a little day trip or something that I can add a little adventure to it.
Nice. What's your favorite construction project that you have been a part of? You had some big fancy ones.
I have some big fancy ones. But it's funny, I kind of like the smaller ones. Yeah. So I've been at the Methodist Dallas campus for, it's going on 6 years, and I think the reason I really love working there, doing a lot of smaller renovation projects, but it's the way everyone just operates as a team. You're talking to folks at Methodist and folks on the trade side and the end users and then our internal team, and everyone understands that the goal is the patient. They're creating a space for them, and just working together, it just makes your day-to-day so much easier. And when everyone is aligned and they know what your goal is and your true north is, it just changes the project. So you can work on these big fancy ones, and if everyone has a different vision of how it's going and there's toxicity and fighting, it's not fun. And it looks great afterwards. But those projects where you're actually serving someone and working together to accomplish that, I think that just, it carries a lot more meaning to me.
Nice. Okay. I think that's pretty much all of our questions that we have. Is there anything that we talked about at some point in time that you also wanted to talk about on the podcast? LinkedIn, all the social medias. I'll put your LinkedIn on there. Do you want anyone to follow you on personal Instagrams, anything?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Any other social media or anything that I need to include for people to follow?
I'm not as active outside of those few.
Okay. Okay.
For good reason, it can be addicting.
It can be. Yeah.
Addicting.
Well, I think that's it. And I appreciate you coming on today. I think this was good.
This was exciting. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.